Hi, everybody. It's Asaf Somekh from Iguazio. I'm here again at Data Science Salon. This time I have the honor to have with me Professor Robert Klempfner from Sheba Medical Center. And Robert has several hats. Today he's wearing actually three of them, or two of them, I would say. On his day job is cardiologist saving people's lives. And he's also the director of the Israeli Center for Cardiovascular Research, and he's also the scientific director at the Sheba Arc Innovation Center. And this is why we're here together, because we've been doing some great stuff with Sheba Medical Center, which is one of the top 9 hospitals in the world. And you'll see why in this session. We'll be discussing how we're actually bringing data science to life at Sheba, and how AI doesn't stay within the realms of just research, and we actually bring it to the operation, the day-to-day operation of the hospital, changing how healthcare is provided at the hospital. With that, I think a lot have been said about the huge potential of AI in healthcare across many, many different use cases. We have a few examples here, but the potential is even much bigger than that. And 2020 was a year when even more innovation and more ideas have come up, given the pandemic, given the pressure that was created on the system, and at the same time, new gates have been opened and new possibilities have been created given the reduced regulation that happened. And so it was very, in some sense, it was a very fruitful year for more innovation of this space. But still, this is statistics that is true across all vertical markets when it comes to AI. We see that more than 80%, in fact, 85%, and in healthcare, the number is even higher. Projects, AI projects that when they start, there is a clear intention, not just to have it as a research paper, but to actually bring this AI-based innovation all the way to the production floor, whether it's a factory, to a financial institution, it could be in the trading platform. But when it comes to healthcare, we're talking here about operating rooms, about ICUs, about the logistics of the hospital. Many of these projects stay as eventually become a research paper because the transition from research to production is too hard. People are realizing the hard way. They actually have all the intention to bring it to production, but then they realize that the reality is so different. The way data needs to be acquired, the way model needs to be managed, the way you want to deploy them is very, very different from how it is done in the research. And that's exactly why Iguazio came to life. It's all about bridging this gap between the research environment and the production environment, doing this with our platform. So today, we'll talk about how the platform does it, and we'll discuss several use cases that we're working together with the Sheba folks across the clinical part and the logistical parts of the hospital. And how are we doing that? So here, you can see that our platform is essentially an end-to-end pipeline that is designated for the production environment, where you have different types of data that comes into the machine learning pipeline at different speeds. Some of the sources are real-time sources like vital signs that are coming straight from sensors that you have in the beds of the patients. Some of the sources could be the medical records that you have within the environment, the hospital, which is kind of more of a static data, but that is evolving with different medical examination that are logs in there. And other are unstructured sources like images, like the X-rays and the MRIs that you want to combine them all together when it comes to the decision and the recommendation that you have within different use cases. This was just an example, but describe here several data sources that are being acquired in very different ways. And how do you do the cross correlation? How do you actually time them together? How do you query the operational system without interfering with the overall operation of those subsystems? Where do you store the data? Where do you have those features arranged and transformed in order to be fed in real time into models that can be applied in dashboards or in other automated systems to assist the doctors in their care for the patients? All of that is done in our platform in a way that is processing the data. All the data is actually being made available for the models in a feature store that provide the same APIs and interfaces to the model feeding, just like it's done in the research stage. So that is kind of the bridge I was talking about before when it comes to reducing the friction and the differences that you have in a development environment and production environment. But it doesn't end there. It's about models that need to continue evolving. 2020 have actually been a year, not just in the healthcare vertical, but across all verticals, that people realize that patterns are changing all the time, and models cannot be treated as black boxes. Many people create the model and then think that, okay, all I need is an endpoint and I'll just deploy the model over there and that's it. I'll just stream the data through it and that's it. But that's not the case. The models need to keep evolving as the data that was originally used for training them evolved and changes. There is a concept drift in the data. There is drift in the actual accuracy of models. So people understood in 2020 the importance of continuing to manage and update and retrain this model even in the production environment on a day-to-day or in an hourly basis in a way that maintains the accuracy of the models and the predictions. We'll talk about it later on with some specific examples related to COVID. And then when it comes to the production and the deployment of the models, how do you actually do it at scale? I mean, we're talking about the largest hospital in the Middle East. We're talking about thousands of inferencing that have to happen at a very short time frame. It's not the lab environment where you have models running one by one. You need to run it at the highest level of accuracy, at the highest level of service that this production platform has to operate 24/7. All of that is being taken care of in the platform. Before we jump into the use cases, I'll let Robert introduce Sheba in general and also the ARC Innovation Center within Sheba. Robert?
Thank you, Asaf. I'm very proud of working at Sheba. It's a wonderful place to work in and practice medicine and also do science at the same thing. We are expected, required, and we actually are very happy to combine this clinical practice, and we're doing a lot of clinical things at Sheba because it's a very large hospital. As you said, we're very proud being top 10. We are a combined hospital, both with an large acute hospital, and also a rehabilitation hospital. Everything adds up to almost 2,000 beds. We have all the facilities, including a very large rehab center. We have a simulation center, the largest in the Middle East, perhaps probably one of the largest in the world, and a relatively new innovation center that Professor Kreis and Eyal Zilnichman set up for us to look for the redesign of medicine, and ARC stands for this. It's the acceleration, redesign, and collaboration, because this is the only way we can move forward. What we're doing currently will simply not be enough. It will not scale with the needs of the system of our patients and the numbers that we are expecting to need to treat every day. in this new world post-corona. And this is the reason that we're working on these additional number of hubs that we focus on elements that will probably give us the extra edge to be able to make the necessary changes and redesign what is happening currently. And we're doing this in my area, in the big data and AI, but we're also doing this in additional vertical hubs, such as rehabilitation, such as surgical devices, VR and AR, telemedicine, personalized medicine. And all this is happening on a number of virtual floors. So we have the first floor where we're looking for the entrepreneurs at Sheba. We're looking for that nurse with a great idea. We're looking for that physician that dreams to have a startup and not only practice gynecology or cardiology. And we are arranging education around these events. We have hackathons, and we're doing quite a lot in order to seek the best projects and also fund them. We're working with the Israeli very active ecosystem of digital health companies and a lot of additional companies that are currently not in the field of health, but are actively very interested and are asking themselves, what can I do with my technology or with my capabilities in order to contribute? We have significant strategic partners such as AstraZeneca, Boston Scientific, the Data Science Group, Iguazio being one of our strategic partners, and others. And we have a lot of academia collaborations that we are actively pursuing in order to tie everything up. Around the corona, we were very quick to understand that we have a significant challenge here, that we need the Innovation Center to enter in a battle mode kind of activity where we were focusing on different types of solutions that can help our teams and our patients and ultimately bring better outcomes, starting from designing new types of ventilators from different modalities of monitoring, doing telemedicine in different ways, and a significant part was trying to get insight out of the data we're collecting, because it's not enough for us to collect the data, to have those monitors, to have the clinical data. We understood that if we want to actually get actionable insights, such as deterioration of corona patients, we need to work together with leading industry leaders such as Intel, the Data Science Group, and we arranged a hackathon where we moved very quickly, and we had a significant challenge here to take the data from the multiple silos that exist in every healthcare institute, get the data, normalize the data, work with the data, and as Asaf explained, ultimately, we quite quickly understood and find out that the models need also to change because the second wave was not similar to the first wave. And we have to adapt the models to fit the new data in the changing epidemic that was actively changing almost daily under our eyes.
Thanks, Robert. So from here, we're actually going to talk how we're actually building this machine learning factory to get this smooth transition from innovation to the production environments within Sheba. So as I said before, we're actually doing it across clinical use cases, and I'll show an example around that related to that artifact that we got, the model that were created in the hackathon, and how we're actually building a production environment around it. And at the same time, when we're talking about the logistical part and how we improve the patient's experience through Sheba, when it comes to smart mobility and logistics that eventually meet the day-to-day operation within Sheba. So if we jump into the first use case, going back to that hackathon, we can see at the top of this chart, the boxes around third-party companies like DSG and Intel that created the winning models for the hackathon. This is where the research creates the model. And this is where we're now working with Sheba on creating an environment that serves the researchers in a way that the transition from the original model creation and training environment that here we're seeing Microsoft Azure ML as one of these tools can actually go smoothly with a hybrid configuration where you have the production environment sitting very closely with all these data sources, where we have the real-time patient vital signs coming from the sensors on the bed, getting streaming in real time into the platform. We're getting access through ETL processes that are not interfering with the operation of the medical record systems. We're now also in the process of adding X-rays into the decision-making and the recommendations coming out of these models. And all of that is actually flowing into this feature store, which is in the heart of the Iguazio platform. It's the same feature store that is being used for the model creation and training. And eventually that feature store does the transformation of the data that is arriving in real time, presenting it to the model in exactly the same way that was done in the training. So this is where the flow, the real-time flow, the production flow comes in. Also important to mention that when you have a streaming data that is now representing a decision around a particular patient, there is no need to go back into the EMR system that is typically slower than what you need to have in the real-time operation. You just go into the feature store and you have those features available, and this is how you construct an efficient feature vector to fit into the model. And as Robert said, continuing to track, monitor these models, and not just the model, the data that comes in. You want to see that the data, just like the example of the first wave and the second wave, it wasn't only the treatment that changed, it was also the demographics. So if the demographics of the patients changed, and the original model was trained with older people rather than the younger people that come in the second and third wave, you want to retrain the model. So the platform automatically triggers those retraining events upon detection of drift in the data, even before we talk about reduced accuracy. On the receiving end, this is also through labeling. The platform automatically detects drift in the model accuracy, and then again initiates the retraining. And all of that can be done in a hybrid configuration where all these sensitive use cases, when it comes to privacy, would run on-prem. Some of the stuff can be retrained on-prem, but the majority of it should be done in the cloud. This is where you have access to many more compute resources than what you have in the on-prem environment. And eventually, those results, the predictions, go into the dashboards in the ICUs, assisting the doctors in real time to make the right decisions when it comes to the treatment of the patient. So that's one part of it. And then when we go into the logistical part, and then where we meet how smart mobility actually meets medicine and healthcare, it's, I think, once again, an area where Sheba is a great example for leading innovation. To my knowledge, no other hospital in the world is doing a project like that, where you actually combine the patient's queue management system within Sheba with smart mobility, the app, the Sheba app, where this is where you set your appointment. This is where you have all the details around your upcoming operation or things like that. And then, and also the smart mobility services, micro mobility, such as the shuttles within the hospital. All of that is mixed together in an environment that can actually in real time predicts patients being late to a treatment and notifying the specific clinic or operating room in a way that they're not just sitting and waiting for that patient that either got stuck in traffic or got stuck not finding a parking in the hospital. All of that is actually mixed together into a result that improves the patient's experience by improving the parking services and all of that. So we reduce the time it takes the patient to get into the clinic is going to, and at the same time, improving the utilization rates of the clinics and the operating rooms by predicting late arrivals and no-shows and not having those clinics and operating rooms sitting and waiting idle. So this is a great example of how Sheba is innovating also the logistical side and eventually the two aspects, the control around the clinical side and the logistical sides meet together and communicate to form the best experience and patient care. I know we don't have a lot of time and most of you know us by now, but you'll read about us more in our booth here. Let's not forget it's a trade show that we have here. So you're all invited to go to the Iguazio booth here at DSS. And I want to thank Robert for the opportunity of presenting with us. And feel free to ask questions in the Slack channel. Thank you very much.
Thank you.